1 Minute Horrors episode 53. 3 more photos with haunting backstories. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This sign, posted in the back of a bus in Medellin, Colombia, translates to a dark 2 sentences. Scream if you feel in danger, I'll help you. I'll never know if my daughter screamed before she was taken away. A bus driver put this up after suffering the loss of his daughter due to kidnapping or murder, and not wanting it to happen to anybody else. Unfortunately, femicide is a rampant problem facing Latin American countries, with Colombia having extremely high rates of impunity. In this photo, the woman seen in front is Swedish freelance journalist Kim Wolf, and the person behind her is Danish entrepreneur Peter Madsen. Kim Wall had been wanting to interview Madsen inside his midget submarine, the UC-3 Nautilus, and when she did on August 10, 2017, this photo was snapped, being it the last time seen alive. Madsen would later murder, rape, and dismember Wall inside his submarine underwater and then dump her remains across the Krug Bay of Denmark. On April 25, 2018, Madsen was convicted of murder, indecent handling of a corpse, and sexual assault and was sentenced to life in prison. This studio portrait, taken in 1944, shows Istvan Rainer smiling joyfully. He was an innocent 4-year-old boy from Miskolc, Hungary, and in the photo, he is holding a hole puncher and paper. Moments later, unknowing of his fate, he and thousands of other people will be murdered in one of the most heinous war crimes ever known inside Auschwitz concentration camp. His parents are unknown, and his background is unknown, meaning that this photo is the only historical proof of evidence that he existed.
These girls got within 8 to 10 feet in broad daylight of this creature. When they saw this thing, they're looking like, what are we looking at here? They're walking through this field and it's up against a cinder block wall. And one of them was looking at it, it was crouched by the wall. It was weak and feeble. And one of them kind of like screeched, and it turned and it looked right at the girls, locked eyes on them. Liliana grabs her younger sister, who's 14, Valkyria, and hightails it out of there. Katya is 21. She's frozen in her tracks, locked eyes with this creature, and it's communicating with her. Please help me. It wants help. It's weak and it's feeble and it's scared. I asked Katya and I asked all the girls, during that moment of contact, when you lock eyes, I know it's only a brief second, but during that moment of contact, what did you feel? You hear the mother talking about it, and she's so emotional. And the mother came back to the location where it happened, the smell, that stench, and the footprint on the ground. They're not trying to sell their story.
These two sisters saw something that still haunts them to this day. On January 20th, 1996 at 3 p.m. in Virginia, Brazil, two young sisters decided to take a shortcut home through a vacant parking lot where they allegedly encountered something terrifying. They came across this ugly looking creature described as having large red eyes, oily brown skin, V-shaped feet, and 3 rounded bulges on its head. Many people compared this being to the mythical Latin American creature known as the Chupacabra. Now, if you thought that wasn't easy on the eyes, wait until you find out that the creature had a strong putrid smell of ammonia. He supposedly smelled like ass. Anyway, when the two young sisters laid eyes on the creature, it's safe to say that it wasn't love at first sight. The creature spooked the bejesus out of them, and so they ran to their mother to explain to her what they had just witnessed. Now, prior to their sighting, two farmers, a woman and her husband, woke up to their cows going nuts outside, and to their surprise was a strange object in the sky the size of a bus, which was emitting smoke. Later that evening at around 6 p.m., two police officers spotted a bizarre animal collapsed on the road. An officer named Marco Cheriz scooped the creature up and took it to a local hospital which contained a special quarantine area. Animals were dying at the local zoo without any explanation, and weird shit was just going down. But it gets weirder. Almost a month after the incident, the police officer Marco Cheriz that picked up the creature passed away in a local hospital. It was reported that he developed an abscess and flu-like symptoms right before he died. What's even more trippy is that the two sisters who witnessed the other creature were later visited by 5 men who offered them money to keep hush-hush on their encounter. To this day, the military continues to deny the story, and as a matter of fact, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, James Fox, is releasing a documentary on this incident later this year. He actually made the documentary The Phenomenon, which I highly encourage you guys to watch. So yeah, this is basically like the Roswell of Brazil, and the military is totally covering this case up. It was too risky, you know? People find out about this, especially in '96, and they'll all go crazy. I understand why they would cover it up at the time. But folks, the time has come to urge governments to release this info to the public. The majority of people are ready for disclosure. Before I go, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for helping me get to 100,000 followers. You guys have really motivated me to continue making content. And as promised, I'll be launching a podcast on YouTube very soon titled Fight or Flight. I'll be attempting to go face to face with eyewitnesses and former government officials in a push for what we call disclosure. That, along with conveying the most interesting UFO and extraterrestrial encounter cases and sharing personal accounts regarding this phenomenon. Hope you stick around, and as always, keep it adrenaline.
This is the most disturbing Brazil cartel execution video explained. The video that I'm about to explain is 6 minutes long, and it might be the most brutal video ever. The video opens up with a brief interrogation of one of the women. In the interrogation, she pledges her allegiance to the cartel, and the video then jump cuts and shows the same woman who at this point is bloody and beaten bad. She begins begging for her life, saying, "You could do whatever you want, just not that," referring to the man pointing the gun at her head. One of the other men then says no more chances, and the man with the gun shoots the poor woman in the head. They then check on her body, and the one man says, "I don't think she's dead," which makes him take out a machete and begin hacking away at her neck. The video then jump cuts again, this time showing the second victim, and this is where the video gets extremely graphic. The men order her to place her hands on a fallen log, which she does, and is then struck in the hand by the machete. They then order her to place her hands back on the log, and they then repeat this process over and over, until the log is completely covered in bloody handprints. She then holds her bloody and mangled hands up to the camera as she tries to hold back tears. The video then jump cuts again, and it shows the same girl sitting in a muddy hole, and the man carrying the machete then takes her hand and strikes her arm numerous times with the machete. He first breaks her bone and then cuts through the flesh, severing her arm. And due to the machete being blunt, it takes several strikes. Surprisingly, the victim doesn't scream, but she rolls around in pain for a few seconds. She then pleads to the killers to leave her alone. The man with the machete then orders her to raise her leg, which she does, and he then hits her in the shin twice, which looks like it breaks the bone. She cries out mercy and says she's about to pass out. The man then orders her to lift her leg again so he could repeat the process. He then says this again, but the victim then says she can't move. And in response, the man with the machete strikes her all over her body, all while she's still pleading with the man. And after several more hits, she says it's good enough, insinuating to kill her and put her out of her misery. After a couple more strikes, the killer breaks the machete, and the video then jump cuts again, and shows the second victim lying on her stomach with the killer pulling her hair to raise her head up. The killer then strikes her in the throat several times with the machete, and instinctively she tries to block the blade with her one remaining hand. The killer continues to hack and slash at the victim's neck as she slips in and out of consciousness before he finally beheads her. A third victim is shot in the head and beheaded off camera, much like the first victim. The killer then takes all three heads by the hair and holds them up to the camera, and the video then concludes. This video is extremely graphic and terrifying, and whatever you do, please never go seeking this video, because it will definitely scar you for weeks or even forever. This world is completely brutal, and this video is just another example.
In 1996, the small town of Varginha, Brazil was rocked by a series of eerie sightings, now known as the Roswell of Brazil. It all started when locals in Virginia reported seeing a strange cigar-shaped object about the size of a school bus slowly falling from the sky and crash in a field. Carlos de Sosa, a college professor and ultralight pilot, witnessed the crash, and this is what he had to say. When I arrived at the site on this very spot, I observed a lot of debris and pieces, and when I got out of the car, I immediately smelled ammonia, like rotten eggs, a very strong smell. So strong that I had to cover my nose with the shirt I was wearing and my eyes got watery. Within minutes, however, Mr. De Sosa said military trucks arrived and threatened him with weapons to leave. 7 days later after the incident, two sisters aged 14 and 16 and a 21-year-old friend spotted a tiny frightened alien with big red eyes crouching by a wall. Around 3 hours after the alleged encounter, this is how the story goes. Two military police officers were driving along a road just around the corner and the creature ran in front of their car. One of the officers, being Marco Cherez, captured the creature with his bare hands and took it to a local hospital after being scratched by it. After he captured the creature, he had a weird feeling of something sticky or greasy all over his body that came from the creature. He then developed an infection that wouldn't go away, and for about 2 or 3 weeks it got worse and worse. The doctors that tried to treat him said they have never seen anything like this in their whole medical careers. That infection ended up taking his life at the age of 23. Pretty creepy, right? But it gets worse. The hospital staff reported closing off a whole section of the hospital that the creature was being examined in due to the smell of extreme ammonia. Some health staff even reported shooting nasal sprays up their nose days after the incident to get rid of the smell, and I quote, "It was 1,000 times worse than a skunk spray." Dozens of eyewitnesses of Virginia seen the Brazilian police and military capture at least 2 aliens, and the US Air Force confiscated the alien bodies and took them to an unknown location. One civilian investigator claimed to have seen a 35-second video of the creature, while another researcher was shown a colored photo of 2 similar creatures, one deceased and the other one crouched down. Witnesses have received death threats and faced hostility after speaking out about the incident, with the one researcher who was shown the photos moving to Italy to escape. Is this a crazy hoax, or is this firm proof of extraterrestrial life? Tune in every Friday with Fearful Fridays.
So here's a mythical creature whose stomach literally growls, the Mapinguari from Brazilian folklore. It's a very large Amazonian creature with a single eye, a fanged mouth on its abdomen, and hooked claws. This creature is an omnivore, but one thing it always makes sure to eat is any people who defile its territory or any sacred parts of the Amazon. And I wouldn't recommend trying to fight this thing because its body cannot be penetrated by any weapon. It does, however, have one weakness, its little belly button. But even if you try to hit it there, you'll likely miss because you'll be disoriented by the horrifically disgusting odor this creature gives off. So yeah, it's probably best to avoid defiling sacred Amazon sites unless you're willing to literally face the belly of the beast.
This disgusting human being is Dr. Giovanni Quintilla Becerra, and he was arrested last year following some really disturbing allegations. According to a Daily Mirror report, he was apprehended at the Women's Hospital in Brazil with claims of essaying a woman during a C-section procedure. The day had already been marked by suspicion. Becerra had conducted 2 C-sections earlier, and by the third, the vigilant nurses recorded the procedure, capturing the alleged assault. This horrifying act was tactically concealed. The team, engrossed in delivering the baby, couldn't see the patient's upper body, particularly from the neck up. For a horrifying 10 minutes, Becerra took advantage of this blind spot, even sending the victim's husband out of the room. That same husband later recognized the doctor on television post-arrest, connecting the dreadful dots of what transpired. But this is far from an isolated event. There are reports that police are investigating earlier similar allegations, and 3 other women have already accused Becerra of abuse. After his arrest, Becerra faced indictment for R of a vulnerable person, a crime that carries an 8 to 15 year sentence in Brazil. So what are your thoughts? You think an 8 to 15 year sentence is enough for this type of crime, or do you think he deserves a lot more than that? Let me know what you think in the comment section below.
The Devil Carnival in Brazil Yeah, I saw some of that shit, bro. That shit was fucked.
That shit is fucking
Yeah.
crazy, bro.
Yeah.
In Brazil, they have this carnival they do every year. They had canceled it because of COVID.
Yeah.
So there was like a good 3 years they didn't do it, and they finally brought it back this year. This is the first year they bring it back. And so they do a big carnival, big parade and everything. And like the floats are pretty themed, like crazy, hella detailed, very well. And this year, I don't know, I couldn't find it, bro. I couldn't find no reason why they themed this year, but this year it was like demonic. They had floats of like Satan with his wings, demons, the gates of hell, and like one guy dressed up as like Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah.
And then the dude with the pitchfork just like stabbing him and shit on the ground.
I saw some clips of that shit, bro. That shit look crazy.
So they have all that float. They're like mocking God and shit. And then the incident the day after, bro, fucking Brazil gets one of the craziest floodings like ever in history.
No, yeah, I think it was their biggest, like, in their history.
And hella people, obviously a lot of people died from it. I think there's even a good amount of people missing right now still.
Yeah.
Because of that. So that shit's crazy, bro. Would you really say God getting his revenge or some shit? Because it's hard to say, because like you would say yeah, but like damn, bro, like would God himself really do that? He's really putting all these people in harm.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, obviously, if you believe in God and, like, very religious and all that, but damn, bro, I mean, it's a crazy coincidence itself, but, I mean, have you seen, like, any other cases?
In Campo Grande, Brazil, there's a stretch of Highway 262 that some say is cursed. Despite it being a very straight and flat stretch of highway with no curves, many people have mysteriously lost control of their vehicles in the exact same spot. Oddly enough, most accidents that occur here only involve one vehicle. Recently, a Brazilian news team was filming a live broadcast from Highway 262 at the scene of an accident. An accident that again involved only one vehicle that had mysteriously lost control. And check out what they caught on their footage. Pay very close attention to the front dash of this vehicle. It's so quick that you might miss it. But there is a pale white face of a child that pops in between the driver and passenger seats. There were no survivors of this accident, and all passengers inside were adults. So where did this little child, or the spirit of this little child, come from? Well, 2 years prior, on that exact same stretch of road, there was another accident with a similar vehicle that also mysteriously lost control. That time, there was an 8-year-old boy who was killed in that accident. Was his spirit caught on camera 2 years later?
Let's start with Brazil, specifically the southeast part of Brazil. There's a very popular legend in that area called O Corpo Seco, or the dried body. This creature is known to have a shriveled up body with holes all over its face. A few years ago, El Corpo Seco was seen on top of a wall in a cemetery. This took place in Mogi Guaco, Sao Paulo. Many people thought that it was just an old story being told in order to scare people away from loitering in the cemetery. But after so many people came forward saying they had actually seen this thing firsthand, it became all too real. There are many different versions as to how the Corpo Seco came about, but everyone seems to agree that he was once human. He was a very cruel man when he was alive. Some say that he even attacked his own mother. When he died, the ground itself rejected his body. and his corpse kept returning to the surface. After this, his eternal rest was denied and he turned into this vile thing. The corporal has the power to dry out trees and kill them, but also to suck the blood of humans on deserted roads in the middle of the night. So I'm going to be posting a video every single day. Comment down below on what country you think I should cover next.
Mythical creatures and folklore from every country in the world. Brazil. Boitot. Boitot is a snake with fire covering its body and eyes. Its purpose is to protect the Brazilian forests and wild animals from people who intend to harm nature, especially those who cause intentional wildfires. Curupira. He is a mischievous creature from indigenous folklore with bright red hair and feet turned backward. His objective is to protect the animals and trees. Curupira uses its backward feet to create footprints that deceive anyone who intends to harm the forests or animals. He is a ruthless creature, chasing and whoever endangers nature. Mula Simcabia. This mystical creature from Brazilian folklore is a headless mule that spits fire from its neck. According to the legend, a curse is cast on any woman who has a romantic relationship with a priest. This woman then becomes a headless mule who runs endlessly through the woods scaring people and animals, hurting whatever gets in its way. Which country should be next?
The Beasta-feira, or the bestial beast in Brazilian folklore, is a centaur-like creature. It is said to be a depiction of the devil, and he comes out on full moons. He has a pack of dogs that follow him that he continuously whips, and he does so with any animal that he comes across. He often rides through the villages at night. Now, although horrifying to behold, although according to some of my recent TikToks, there's a lot of you funny ones out there, so no doubt someone out there wants a piece of this. But although terrifying to behold, and if you do look directly at him, it's said that you'll go absolutely mad, but only for a few days, because actually he's not actually that harmful to human beings, which is kind of completely anticlimactic really, isn't it? But still, the beastly beast, the bestial beast, it's a pretty cool centaur type thing, I think. But yeah, there you go.